Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sergio Tamores, and my partner here,
Hi, I'm everybody. I'm Giovanni Quevedo.
and we are going to present diversity and research in Ours Connects workshop presented for spring 2022. Take it away, Gio.
Awesome. Once again, thank you everybody for coming to our February workshop. Really excited to see you all. And before we get right into it, I have a quick little icebreaker exercise just to kind of get to know everybody, as well as to get everybody talking, get the brains thinking. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is Giovanni Quevedo. I am a computer science major, third year. And something I'm really looking forward to this spring is spring break, actually, and getting some nice sleep. I'll popcorn it over to Sergio.
Perfect. Thank you, Giovanni. My name is Sergio Tamores. I am a graduate assistant for the Hours team, and I am a education major. And I am most looking forward to the change in time because it gets dark really quick right now. So I'm just looking forward to more sunlight. Saron, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Saron Chipra. I am the program coordinator for ours. My major in undergrad was sociology and women's studies. And then I went and got my master's in social work. What I am looking forward to for the spring? That is a great question. Probably the weather. I think it's still a little chilly. I'm actually like rocking a vest. I've been trying to convince my friends to get vests because I just think they're the greatest invention. And I will popcorn over to Vanessa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa. My major is molecular cell biology. I'm a junior. I actually transferred this semester. And I think what I'm looking forward for the spring is maybe just getting some rest.
Awesome, awesome. And we'll hand it over to Penelope, if you wouldn't mind sharing as well.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing. So my name is Penelope. I actually work for the Hours office. I'm the admin assistant. During undergrad, I got my bachelor's in health science, and then I just started grad school last year. And I'm currently getting my degree in healthcare admin. Something I'm looking forward to for the semester, I guess, or the spring. I guess spring break. I already like feel overwhelmed and stuff. So I'm just like, I need a break. But yes, thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Penelope. I'm definitely also looking forward to that spring break. I'm counting the days. But alrighty, so just jumping in right into it. Here's a quick agenda. We'll be going over defining diversity, talking a little bit about it, a quick reflection exercise to digest what we learned. We'll talk a little bit about the racial and ethnic disparities in research studies. We'll ask the question, does diversity really matter? And then we'll go over a quick debrief exercise. So just to get us started, I wanted to kind of get you guys to start thinking about how we define diversity. What attributes to our persons and to our individuals would be considered aspects of diversity, or what would make you different? So I open the question to you. Does anybody think of any like certain types of fields? Like, what would you consider diversity categorized by?
Age. Age is one.
Definitely, age is definitely one. Different people of different age ranges definitely have different expertise as well as different knowledge. So that's a really good one. Is anyone else?
I think that a lot of times people just think about like race or ethnicity, but age is a really good one that you said. But it could also be orientation or gender, things like that. Maybe even abilities.
Definitely, definitely. I think orientation is probably a big one that's becoming more and more recognized nowadays, that I think is definitely very important to note. So that was a good, cute couple examples. We have a couple here that I will go ahead and let the slide show us. So one of which is language. Not a lot of people think of this initially, but some people are definitely categorized differently by the first languages they speak, or rather the languages they may not be first languages. Another one being race and ethnicity. This is pretty commonly what people think about when they think about diversity. Ability and disability, especially nowadays as well, more and more rights are being afforded to those who are not, who are differently able than us. So I think it's very important to consider that when we think of diversity. Age as well, like Sergio said, is a very important one. Sexual orientation, definitely. Work experience. Immigration and citizenship status. Gender identity and expression. Socioeconomic status, like your income and stuff like that. Religious beliefs. This is a huge one that's come up to up into recent events with COVID and everything. It's very important to consider. Geographic location as well. Political affiliation, culture, and finally generational status. This is definitely not a comprehensive list, as there are so many things that you can be categorized as and that might consider you diverse, but it's a good way to start to get to thinking about the things that we might not consider on a regular basis as diversity. So moving forward, just a quick reflection exercise. I would like you to think about what diversity you'd bring to your team as a researcher or into the research field. For instance, are you the first in your family to go to college? Was English your second language? What type of neighborhood did you grow up in? What is your racial and ethnic background? Different aspects of what make you unique and what make your experience unique as well. Take a minute to reflect on these questions. And also, while you're thinking about that, think about how this can be viewed as positive or negative, depending on your work experience, your research experience, etc. What skills do you have because of your diversity? And how have you navigated this in your own experience? How has this shaped your view on the world in school? This isn't so much as like a sharing one, just to think about it in yourself, but I would go ahead and share a little bit since I don't mind. I am actually the first in my family to go to college, which is definitely, I wouldn't say it's detrimental at all, but it is interesting because I don't have anyone who's super close to me to look up to when it comes to this kind of academic stuff. So that's definitely something I'd attribute to it, as well as I did come from South Central LA in a very, not the best neighborhood as well. So I can definitely see how that might make a difference in certain things, just things to think about. So now let's tie it back into research. We've talked about diversity and the importance of it, but let's talk about what diversity means in the aspect of research. First, defining the problem. Minoritized populations are less likely to be included in biomedical research studies, yet are disproportionately impacted by environmental and health problems, meaning that a lot of people from minoritized populations might suffer from certain ailments that aren't even being studied for those populations, which is very interesting to think about. Many physicians and scientists are informed by research that has studied a majority white population. This is definitely no surprise, as a lot of research tends to gravitate towards a larger white population, since America is mostly white. Advances from biomedical research studies do not benefit minoritized populations. What do you think we can do to find solutions to these problems? Does anyone have any ideas? Sergio, for instance, what would you do to maybe try to remedy one of these?
Yeah, so up until this point, we were talking about how research can be seen as an asset in these fields. And I think just having people from diverse communities working with the communities they're studying is a way to find solutions to these problems, right? If you have a Latino person studying Latino health, I think they'll understand a lot more about the community and the cultural aspects of how they live, their lifestyles, their diets, their whole health practices. It would be seen, it would be taken into account while discussing solutions to these issues. So I think just including more people on their research team, as well as studying more minoritized populations, going to these communities to study any issues they may have.
That was gold right there. That was amazing. Okay, cool. So I have a quick video to share. I'm not sure how well this is going to translate through Zoom. So could you let me know, Sergio and Saron, if the sound doesn't come through right? But we'll go over this quick little video talking about research trials lacking in diversity. So I'll go ahead and open that.
A new study says
How's it
clinical
sound?
trials for biomedical research are too white. Sam O, one of the study's researchers, told NPR the lack of diversity in clinical trials can cause confusion over why certain drugs work for some, but not for others.
African Americans and Puerto Ricans don't respond as well to some of the most common asthma controller medications. And that's really a tragedy since these two groups are also the most affected by asthma in the United States.
While the National Institutes of Health's clinical trials are representative of the nation's population, research on certain diseases remain largely white.
Only 2% of cancer studies and less than 5% of pulmonary studies have studied enough minorities to provide useful information.
He seems to think the lack of diversity in trials stems from a number of things, including a low amount of funding to help reach out to minorities and the lack of diversity among researchers leading the studies. But the lack of diversity seems to be getting better. The NIH says between 2010 and 2014, some clinical trials saw an increase in Black participants from 10% to 23%. For Newsy, I'm Eugene Daniels.
Awesome. I want to highlight really quickly how one of the solutions proposed in the video is very closely aligned to what Sergio said about kind of reaching out to those communities, making an effort to communicate with them, as well as having researchers on your team that are identified with those communities, just so they can have that kind of connection. Before I hand this over to Sergio, I wanted to kind of ask everybody if anyone wanted to share how this video might make them feel. I can tell you definitely that as someone who is from a minoritized population myself, it is kind of infuriating to know that a lot of the help that should be there for people is not, just due to factors like race. But I just wanted to know if anyone else had any feelings about that in any kind of way.
Yeah, I was
I
surprised.
would.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Vanessa. We all got
go
excited.
ahead. Go ahead. I can.
Okay, I was just saying I was so surprised. I did not know this about asthma specifically and what communities it was targeting. I really just had no idea.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what Sergio was saying and the video, I think like since I am part of a minority group and I'm also first generation college student in my family, I think it kind of motivates me a little bit more to talk to family members and my younger family members or people around my community to inform them and kind of encourage them to be more interested in the research or like medical stuff and not just what our culture kind of tells us to do and study, which is not mostly, it's not very like the STEM major part of it. So if we're not participating, if we're not in that field, we won't be able to communicate or make a change or do research in those specific ethnicities that need the help in.
Vanessa, it's so great that you say that, because actually a lot of the programs that Long Beach has, as well as ours in Europe, a lot of our biggest focus is trying to bring more minoritized populations into research, just because it does help, like we mentioned, diversifying research, as well as like these are careers that anyone can be in. And in fact, we encourage people who are from minoritized populations to pursue research as a career. But yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I'm gonna go ahead and hand this over to Sergio.
Yeah, I wanted to add something too. I think research, the lack of research also affects fields outside of medical research or just health research, because you got to think, why are Latinos, why are Black populations most susceptible to pulmonary illnesses? What places do they live? Thinking about Long Beach specifically, right? West of the 710, there's so much smog, there's so much pollution from the 710, right? You have all those trailers moving through the port, versus you come to downtown Long Beach, the sky is much cleaner, you have access to the ocean, it's not built by the port. What type of jobs are they working? Are they manual labor? Are they in an air-conditioned office? What type of food are they eating, right? I think that all contributes in the aspect of race to our health. So thank you for sharing that video, Gio. Can you please hit the next slide? So a quick question. What do you think are some barriers to increasing diversity in biomedical research? What are the barriers that prevents a lot of minoritized populations to participate in research? Does anyone wanna share?
Yeah, I would like to share.
Sorry, Vanessa, I think you cut out. You can go ahead and try again though.
Oh, sorry. I think I put myself on mute. Yeah, I think it's not knowing about these opportunities and the different fields that there are available for people. So I think one of the barriers would be that, like, the lack of knowing that they're out there.
I agree. The lack of awareness for these opportunities to study these problems, especially when it comes to these communities, it's definitely going to help them. But if they don't know where to go or how to help, they're most likely not going to help. Gio or Saron, do you have any suggestions or yeah, go ahead, Gio.
Yeah, I know definitely a big one also is like compensation. I'm sure a lot of people might have like really strict job hours and like time commitments that they can't really like, you know, take time out of research because they might not be compensated well enough. So I think that might be a really big one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead. Go
keep
ahead.
interrupting everybody. Yeah, I was gonna say even what Sergio had shared earlier that I got me thinking, you know, like even when it comes to food deserts and how folks don't have healthy grocery stores around them, it's like these day-to-day things are gonna affect you. You don't have that extra free time, you know, to be pursuing exactly what you're saying, a free opportunity. Or if it comes to caring for family members, right? If your family financially can't afford for somebody else to care for younger siblings or whatever that looks like, I think there's a lot of different things going on socioeconomically. And then also, I would say just the stigma around research, right? Folks don't know what research is, or if they've heard of it, they don't think it's for them. So exactly what y'all are talking about. And at this point, I think all three of you are just sharing amazing things. I'm gonna let you keep going, but my sociology side is very much enjoying this.
Of course. Gio, can you please hit the arrow key one time? Yeah, so thank you all for sharing. We're going to review some of the ones we have here, but the cultural and linguistic differences. So I think we all touched upon it in some type of way, but some people from these populations, they cannot leave their job, right? They have to provide. They can't do extra like extra things on top of that. They can't contribute to research. And like Gio said, they gotta get paid, right? Their time is not free. Their time should not be free. Also, linguistic differences, right? They have to be able to understand what they're consenting to for research. So I think that's why it's very important to have people like us who know different languages to participate in these research projects, right? So we can communicate with these people and let them know what they're signing up for. Financial constraints, exactly what Gio said. They gotta get paid. So providing compensation, incentivizing these people to participate is something that's extremely important to getting these people. Insufficient lack of cultural relevant training for researchers, right? So if the researchers do not reflect the community they're researching, what does that mean for the research study, and how does that inform the findings of their study? They may look at it from a deficit perspective, saying, oh, this, for example, like some studies I research about Latinos in education are that they don't value education. Well, I could say that, maybe Gio could say that, maybe Vanessa could say that that's not true, right? We just don't have the adequate resources or weren't adequately supported. So that's why it's important to have researchers reflect the community you're researching. Anthropology has this issue. Lots of the time, it's a lack of cultural understanding, of course, right? So we're studying people. We have to understand what type of people we're researching. Lack of incentive to recruit minoritized communities, right? So someone's got to pay for the research, and if people aren't funded to research this specific population, they might just not do it, right? They might just continue to do what they're doing, providing with grants. So I think that's important for institutions and other organizations to continue to do research in minoritized populations. Fear of exploitation on past unethical studies. I think this is what you brought up, Saron, where when you associate with research, maybe sometimes you don't associate good things with historically exploited groups. They get taken advantage of. What's that one we talked about, Gio? On Wednesday?
It was the Tuskegee experiments, right?
Yeah, the Tuskegee experiment where they subjected a lot of African American people to contracting syphilis to see what would happen. And I think we went over it in our ethics in research, why that's not good and how that stigma of research continues to affect minoritized populations going forward. The lack of diverse research teams, I think that goes with the lack of culturally relevant training. If you don't have people that reflect your population, what does that mean for your findings and research? Perfect. All right. So those were some great, not great, that's some bad ones. Those are some barriers. Those are some barriers that prevent them. So the next slide, please. So we want to know, how can we overcome those barriers? How can we provide these people with opportunities to participate in research and provide the adequate support for their communities? So when barriers are addressed, many individuals from ethnically and racially minoritized communities are just as willing to participate in research as white individuals. So first, we got to address the language barriers. I think that's why it's important to have bilingual people, trilingual people that speak the same language as their participants, because you want to communicate as clearly as possible what they're signing up for and why it's important. The next one, we have to offer payment, travel, accommodation, flexible hours, and meals. You never know what's going on in these people's lives. Maybe they can't step out on their lunch break. Maybe they can't hop on Zoom because they don't have the actual, like they don't have a computer, they don't have great Wi-Fi, they don't have a space where they could speak on Zoom one-on-one. So, and meals, you gotta feed them, dude. You gotta, if you're making them come out of their day, you gotta at least feed them. You gotta provide them a lunch break. You gotta compensate them for their time. Host study sites and communities with diverse residents, right? So if you are studying a Latino population, and think of Cal State Long Beach in general, if you think about the population of Long Beach, you have to think about where we are in relation to the rest of Long Beach, right? Think about the residents, think about the income level, think about the people you're trying to research. And also, if you're asking these people who are not close to Long Beach to participate, you can't expect them to come over to Long Beach. You can't expect them to drive. Some people don't even drive, right? So take the bus. So moving over to those communities and conducting research would be much more equitable in providing those opportunities. Targeted advertising to reach a more diverse audience. So on buses, supermarkets, etc., you got to go to where these people are to find them. And lastly, diverse research teams. Like we said, you have to include researchers that reflect the communities that they are studying, because that ultimately informs their research. And as we said, like throughout the whole meeting, right? Our diversity contributes and shapes our experiences growing up in research, in education, in many different spaces. So having people that reflect their community is extremely important in these. So the question, does diversity really matter? So as a group, let's discuss the following questions. In what ways, yes, of course. In what ways can diversity positively and negatively impact the outcomes of research? How can diversity be included in more research study cohorts? Are diverse research study and cohorts important? In what ways can a research project incorporate diverse cohorts and methods? Okay, as a group, does anyone want to reflect on that question? Does diversity really matter? I know, Saron, you said yes. Do you want to explain why you think that?
You know, I'm reading these questions and I'm like, I am just a very biased here. I can't even, you're like negative. I'm like negatively, what's the negativity there? But I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of a negative. It would show like how outdated our systems are and how long we've gotten comfortable with, you know, the way things have been run. But I don't even see that as a negative. I'm like convincing myself otherwise. But yeah, I think y'all have touched on really great points about representation, right? It makes such a difference. Just having folks that, you know, that are rooting for you, right? That, you know, they're they are potentially mentoring you, and then you're continuing to reach out to the community after. So I really think the impact just continues, right? When it comes to diversity, it's also really great to just hear from other people's perspectives, right? So that's always something we tell our students that are first and second years. Everyone has a unique perspective. So I think the more diverse a group is, the more we can learn from each other. So yeah, I'm definitely all about it. I'd love to hear some of the negatives more so out of curiosity, but yeah, I'd also love to hear from Vanessa. Vanessa, I'm loving everything that you're sharing with us, but no pressure.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't think of anything negative that divert. I don't know. Like I can't think of anything. Um, but yeah, I guess in having like being in the actual research, I think having a diverse group just brings out new ideas and improve on the research that one is doing.
I can say that obviously, like this is, it's pretty obvious this is a loaded question because we all agree very much diversity matters. And I don't think that there's a lot of ways it could negatively impact research, but I can say that if a cohort or research, not a research cohort, if a research team isn't properly ready or at least like knowledgeable of the diverse populations they're studying, that could lead to negative issues. For instance, like we said before, a lot of barriers cropping up, or just people not really knowing how to treat people from different places. So obviously it's not necessarily the diversity that's causing the problem, it's more of like what people are reacting to it.
Yes, that all sounds great. I think we're in accordance that diversity does matter, especially in research, because we're studying these people, right? So we have to do good by them to provide them the accurate findings and research, as well as providing them great resources that will help them live a better lifestyle. Not to say it's different, but I think from our conversations today, we've all thought about the different social impacts everything contributes in their participation in research, and hopefully us as diverse groups of people belonging to different groups, I think we could all bring our perspectives into it. Disagreements can slow down the research and reach a common goal. Yeah, especially with different groups of people, they have different cultural values, they have different types of communication. I know some people may take a way someone communicates as disrespectful or just a different tone. So I think it's just understanding the different types of cultural values, communication styles, and the backgrounds people come from, right? You got to understand where the people come from before you could actually start researching them. And I think that's the first thing you have to do in research, right? You have to read what these people are doing. You got to read about their issues, their problems, and how they overcome them. How they cope with the struggles they go through before you can start trying to solve the problems, right? You're not coming into research to solve these problems. You're just trying to come into research to see how they do it and how you can adequately support them. Nice. Next slide. Nice. So it does matter, right? Why is diversity in research important? So we have a few wrap-ups. So research samples that are representative of the population can provide an opportunity to understand the relationship between ancestry, environmental, and social factors. So like we said, I think the example I said was like about the environment, of how like where do these people live, where they're more susceptible to pulmonary diseases. What is going on with these people that they're contracting asthma more at more higher rate than white people, right? So we have to understand the different factors. Understanding these complex factors can help researchers understand health disparities, disease pathology, and appropriate therapeutic options for different populations, right? So if a medicine doesn't work for this population, we have to understand why is that? Is it their diet? Is it location? Is it their amount of activity level, right? So I think understanding those factors will lead to better results in providing them medicine, right? Especially in the health field, we got to understand how these medicines affect them before we can start prescribing them. Having a diverse research team is beneficial, as diverse teams are more likely to have diverse ideas. There is nothing better than having a group of people with different ideas that all contribute towards the same goal, right? So having a marketplace of ideas will only push our research forward. Lastly, it is important for the advancement of social justice, economics, and science. So everything we talked about today, I think we're talking about people in general. We're talking about our own communities, our own experiences. Like you said, Gio or Vanessa, first generation college students, they're the first people in their family to go here. They're the first people to probably conduct research in these fields. So just having people like you, like Vanessa, like I, like Saron, conducting these in these spaces, just participating in these spaces is good for not only our community, but our families, for ourselves to begin to do something for our communities. So I think that's it. Next slide, please. Oh, nice. So we got the wrap up. So when it comes to diversity, some key takeaways from our group discussion today. When it comes to research, think about who are the participants in the study and who is excluded. Is there an ethical reason why they are not in the study? Who is part of your research team? Are there diverse perspectives informing this work? Is this research accessible to the general population? Who has access and who is restricted from learning about this work? What is useful about this research to the local community? What are the implications of my research and who benefits, and does everyone benefit equally? And lastly, are there negative impacts of your research on specific groups and communities? So these are all key things to think about when conducting research. I think this goes back to ethics too, about working with vulnerable populations, with diverse populations, thinking about what you're actually doing to help these people. So I think, press one more slide. Yeah, so I think that's the end of our presentation today. If you have any questions at all about any upcoming research, workshops, peer advising appointments, or accessing resources, please email us at aa-hours@csulb.edu. We're also in person this semester, so feel free to visit us. You can visit us at the Shakarian Student Success Center in room SSC 120. We got a big sign up front. And today's workshop will be recorded and sent to you via email. So thank you all for attending, and I appreciate your participation, and thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for the great